I sit in classified briefings. I see what some of our adversaries are doing, whether it's China or Russia or others that are really investing in trying to beat the United States, whether it is in space or in artificial intelligence or in cyber. They are racing to be the best. And America must continue to invest in those things. Space, we are the best. We own the high frontier right now as Americans. We can't ever lose that. And it's amazing the number of people, the number of Americans who probably don't understand what would happen if we lost our dependence on space. I mean, our economy would shut down. Everything from financial transactions that we do are done over outer space. Every car that's using navigation on a phone uses GPS. That's all run out of my district, incidentally, all the GPS constellations.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
Hey everyone, welcome to the American Potential Podcast. I'm your host, David Fromm. This past January brought a big change for our podcast. I stepped in as the new host after Jeff Crank was sworn into Congress, marking an exciting new chapter, both for him and for us, and for me. Since then, Congressman Crank has been working hard representing the people of Colorado's 5th Congressional District in Washington. And a lot's happened in just a few short months. We thought now would be the perfect time to catch up with him and hear about what life looks like as a freshman member of Congress. Welcome back to the podcast, Congressman Jeff Crank.
David, thanks for having me. You guys are doing so awesome on the podcast. I heard you're like number one now on like iTunes and all kinds of stuff in the government category. You just had to get rid of that old worn out host from before, and look how you skyrocketed to the top.
I like to think of it as we've blazed the new trail that you pioneered, and then had to take that kind of leadership and your great articulation of the issues to represent us in Washington. So we're glad you're there.
Thank you. Good trade for both of us. I think we both did an upgrade, I think.
Well, look, we're friends. We've been colleagues for a long time. And I've watched, I watch with a lot of, interest and just, I care about how you're doing. And I've been so impressed with, your work in Congress. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for the people in your district. But I mean, this is a huge change. I mean, you went from being a regional vice president at Americans for Prosperity, hosting the podcast, to representing, hundreds of thousands of people in a time that's been really interesting and, dynamic. So, I mean, what are your initial thoughts about being a new member of Congress?
Well, first, I mean, it's just such an honor, and I think about that every day. I mean, whether I'm walking the halls of Congress or I'm out and about, back in the district, and somebody will come up to me at church or in the grocery store or whatever. It's really an honor to be elected to Congress. And I've said that before. It'd be an honor if you got elected to the legislature in Peru or somewhere. But this is the greatest country in the world, and the Congress of the United States is an institution created by our founding fathers. And so I think of that every day, and the weight of that and the importance of that. And so it's that's the first thing I'd say. But aside from that, I mean, it's super fun. I mean, I really enjoy being a member of Congress. There's a lot of things that aren't so fun, getting on airplanes every week and flying back and forth. Maybe not as fun as you would think, but boy, the vast majority of it truly is fun. It's always an honor being down on the House floor every time I go down there. Every time when I go down to vote, I don't know. It's just, you just think of the few people who've gotten to do that. You probably heard me say this, David. I think only 13,000 people in the history of America have gotten to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives out of all the hundreds of millions of Americans. So quite an honor. And, we're doing great things, and it's at a great time to be a member of Congress as well.
Yeah, no, I know that you've even taken another step by serving in the dais at times, right? I've seen you on C-SPAN. Maybe some of our listeners and viewers have. Talk to us what that's like.
Well, I mean, the first time you do that, it's just surreal, you know? Um, you, First time, I guess I would say I was a little nervous, but what you quickly find out is that there's a parliamentarian standing right next to you the whole time. And they really can't trick you because, the parliamentarian who's there, they have, couple hundred years of tradition and rulings to go on. But in addition, they are literally there. Those folks serve, and boy, they don't change parliamentarians very often in the House. They know what they're doing. So even if it starts to get a little bit out of hand, there'll be someone there to help you along the way. I will tell you a funny story. It wasn't me in the chair the other day, but it was someone from your state, David. And I probably ratting him out a little bit. The chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, Mr. Bost,
who's been on the show here a few months ago.
Oh, and he's great. And they put him in the chair a lot because he's pretty stern in the chair, and he runs the House in a very direct way. Well, the other day, very few members saw this. I was on the floor and I saw it, but he was gaveling down. Somebody was being way too boisterous, kind of on the other side of the aisle, intentionally so. And he was trying to get the House in order, and he was hammering the gavel, and all of a sudden he just snapped in his hands. The gavel just snapped. He broke. Yeah, the handle of the gavel just broke. I saw it, and he was really smooth in sort of the way that he did it, but he just kind of set it aside. The parliamentarian ran out, and I guess they have another one somewhere in another room. But I laughed. I saw him today, in fact, and he was getting ready to go in the chair today. And I said, "Are you going to break another gavel?" And he says, "Well, we'll see how well they behave." So,
that's great.
Yeah,
a good Southern Illinois boy. Yeah,
yeah, right.
That's great. So, I don't know. There's been a lot of activity in with the Trump administration coming in. Mike Johnson, the speaker, obviously passed the one big beautiful bill, which we've talked about almost every episode here. I feel like, but there's been a lot of other things going on too. And I know it's been a very dynamic time, probably stressful even. What has been, as a new member? I mean, I know that you were chief of staff, you watched Congress, but I imagine it's very, very different being a member. What's that been like for you going through it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly the pace has been incredible that we've set. And in fact, I look at, I call it the Working Families Tax Relief Act, or the Working Families Tax Bill.
I like it.
What we did in that is historic. And that we probably aren't getting to a lot of the appropriations bills. We haven't returned to regular order. There's a lot of things we haven't done yet. But I will say this, the decision by the leadership and by the president to pursue that process of putting as much as we could through reconciliation was such a good one. I mean, looking back on it, it avoided us needing to get 60 votes because there's some real partisan folks here. So, we, at the end of the day, we didn't get a Democrat vote on most of this stuff. We didn't get it's pretty sad to say, we didn't get a single Democrat to vote to stop the largest tax increase in history. It was $4.5 trillion tax increase. If we wouldn't have taken action, and thank you to Americans for Prosperity for your work in helping shepherd that bill through Congress. But we didn't get a single Democrat. And it was kind of sad that we didn't. And we did so many good things. I mean, we upgraded the infrastructure for the air traffic control system. We're getting new equipment for all of that. All across America was put into that bill. There's just so much that we did. Permitting reform, so many things, unleashing American energy. So we did so many great things in that bill, and it was so amazing to be just a part of that. And I will say, I mean, you're not going to find any member of Congress who has more praise for Speaker Mike Johnson than me. I think he is an incredible leader. We're very fortunate to have him here. He's a man of faith, and he exercises that faith every day. But he's very kind. He's very stern. He's all the things that probably you need to be a good speaker. And he's got all of those great talents. And he's really worked hand in hand with the president, right, to get a lot of this stuff done. And to me, that's what's been fascinating. So it I mean, it's quite an honor. There's some weird moments. I think of when we actually passed, the bill. It was the day before. It was July 3rd, the day because the president wanted it on his desk on July 4th. So he stuck around. I actually flew back. Was on a trip and had to fly back to Washington, D.C. to cast my vote in favor of the bill because we needed every single vote that we have, and we were able to get that done. Some late night votes. I remember getting calls at 10 o'clock at night, heading back over to the Capitol to vote. We even had one where Hakeem Jeffries took his what they call the magic minute, and he spoke. Well, he's the one person in the House who can do it. But he tried to break the record. I think it was 7 or 8 hours.
Wow.
That he spoke. I didn't sit there in the House chamber the whole time. I'll promise you that. But, that was, I think, 5 or 6 in the morning. We got called back. So that session went all night. We got called back and ended up finally voting on it and passing that bill on the 3rd of July, early in the morning. So just some really incredible moments that I'll just never forget about being a freshman member of Congress.
Yeah, what an incredible time to be there with the up close seat. I was in a state that well, New Mexico, a few months or so ago, and we were talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill and how transformative it is for our country. I mean, sometimes you get caught up in the process, but when you really look back on what was accomplished in this legislation that you all passed, it really is transformative. And I give Speaker Johnson and President Trump so much credit. But, we're talking to this crowd and it's like, hey, we're leasing American energy, which in that case in New Mexico is super important. We have the biggest thing is we prevented the biggest tax hike in American history. There's spending cuts that we badly need. There's entitlement reform that we really badly need with regard to Medicaid and others so that we really can service the people who most need that safety net. But there's money for border security so we can continue to protect our border and great healthcare reforms. There's just so much in there that is going to make such a difference for so many people. We're happy to carry on your legacy here at American Potential by talking to people about those great reforms individually and how it's going to impact their lives. We just had a conversation with Dean Clancy about the expansion of HSAs and the exciting things in that. So there's so much there that I think we need to unpack and help the American people really understand, because it can be so transformative in helping them, live a better and better life.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes we get wrapped up in what something is called, right? There's so many people that call it the big, beautiful bill. And then you have people who opposed it that's call it, the big, ugly bill and all those things. But, when you break it down to its components and you talk about some of the things that were actually in that bill, I mean, it's very popular with the American people. I was out on a ride-along not too long ago with some of the police officers in my district, and I told them we were sitting around doing the briefing before we left to go out for the night. And I told them, I said, you guys do realize that we just passed no tax on overtime for all of you. And they go, oh, that's great. When does it kick in? I said, it kicked in last January. It's retroactive to January. So when you file your taxes, if you get overtime, anybody listening to this podcast, when you file your taxes in 2026 for 2025, you can go back to January 1st of 2025 and you will be able to not be taxed on all of that overtime. And so there's so much of that, doubling the child tax credit. I mean, all the people who didn't vote for this bill voted to not, help on the child tax credit, to have it expire. I mean, there's so many reasons why we needed to pass this bill. And it's just unfortunate. Some people got blinded, I guess, by political dislike, whether it's of the president or just for their own political purposes, that, really they should have been supporters of this bill, because this really was a tax bill that helps working families.
Yeah, it so does. I particularly appreciate the child tax credit portion.
Well, I know you do, because I know you do have 1 or 2 kids. That's what I heard last time.
We're 11, so.
Or 11.
I don't get to claim all. I don't get to claim all of them anymore. Some of them have aged out, but so yeah. But we're appreciative.
Well, when I voted for that tax cut and it was for the increase in the child tax credit, I was thinking of you, David Fromm. How's that?
I appreciate that. Thank you. See, this is the way that representative democracy should work.
That's right.
All right. Hey, I want to talk to you a little bit about your committees. So I believe you're on armed services and natural resources.
Right.
I mean, Tell me anything. What? There's so much exciting stuff going on in both of those, and they're so impactful nationally and certainly to Colorado in your district. Tell me about like your work on that and what you've found inspiring and interesting there.
Sure. Well, first of all, great honor to serve on the Armed Services Committee. I fought hard to get on that committee. And as you know, David, I mean, our men and women serve in the military. They do this selflessly. They're away from their families. They don't get paid very much. We don't treat them the way that we should, like the heroes that they are. But we've been able over this last year, this last several months, to really help do much better on those quality of life things. So we passed a couple of pay increases one for junior enlisted, one for all the military. We have one in a bill that's here in the House right now. The National Defense Authorization Act has a pay increase for our soldiers. We also increased the base allowance for housing. We did that in the one big beautiful bill, in the reconciliation bill. So for everybody who voted against it, again, they voted against increasing the base allowance for housing for our military. So we're doing some great things there. We really have to focus. And one thing that I've really come to understand since I've been here, and of course I thought this before, but I really understand it in great detail now. I sit in classified briefings. I see what some of our adversaries are doing, whether it's China or Russia or others that are really investing in trying to beat the United States, whether it is in space or in artificial intelligence or in cyber. They are racing to be the best. And America must continue to invest in those things. Space, we are the best. We own the high frontier right now as Americans. We can't ever lose that. And it's amazing the number of people, the number of Americans who probably don't understand what would happen if we lost our dependence on space. I mean, our economy would shut down. Everything from financial transactions that we do are done over outer space. Every car that's using navigation on a phone uses GPS. That's all run out of my district, incidentally, all the GPS constellations. So there's so much that we rely on space as an economy and as a military that it's just truly, truly super important. And then on the Resources Committee, there's so much that we do on public lands. We had a big part in some of the oil and gas lease activity that was done in the One Big Beautiful Bill, making sure that oil and gas leases are out there. And, I'm really proud of this. We got rid of the government, for the most part, picking winners and losers by giving subsidies to green energy projects and not focusing on what is the best energy out there, the most affordable energy for the American people. And so for me, that's been the focus. Let's focus on what's best for those families that are in my district that are struggling to pay high utility bills. We can't burden them with these ridiculous rules that try and pick winners and losers and say that this energy is better than that energy. We ought to give them the best energy at the most cheap rate that we possibly can, so that they can do other things with the money that they put in their pockets. So we're doing great things on the House Natural Resources Committee too, and that's a great committee to be a part of.
That's great. Yeah, I guess you're doing some great work there. And so I'd love to hear, kind of stepping back, like what's one of your favorite stories that you've experienced 9 months that you've been there?
Yeah. I have two that well, I'll tell this one. This one, there's a couple that just really come to mind. And they both involve, to be honest with you, kids that have come to visit from the district. I had the honor of having a young man come in to talk to me about the importance of funding some healthcare programs through the Colorado Children's Hospital. And he came in and he was just a wonderful young man, had many, many medical challenges. And he was born in China, came to the United States when he was 3. He was adopted by a family in Colorado, and he came out and he's had so many surgeries. And he came in my office. We were sitting there talking, and he was just super smart. I mean, this kid was amazingly smart. And I'd say he was probably close to 10 years old. And as we were talking, I asked him, I said, well, how many surgeries have you had in your life? And he said, I don't know, too many to remember. I mean, that's pretty sad, David, right? When you hear a 10-year-old boy or girl say too many, to remember. And I said, really? You can't remember? I said, more than 10 or 15? He goes, oh, way more. So you just think of what this young man's been through in his life. And so we were talking, and all of a sudden the buzzers, that clock behind me, in between the ram and the deer head there, as you know, working on Capitol Hill, it goes off, and that means we have votes. So I was sitting in this meeting with this young man and his parents, and that went off. And so it meant that I had to go to the House floor to vote. So I just looked at him. I said, hey, do you want to go over to the floor and vote with me? And he goes, really? I'd love that. So I took him over to the House floor, and his parents went over with me, but they couldn't go on the floor because you have to be under 12 to go when we're in session. And so I took this young man on the floor. I pulled out my voting card, and we all vote with a card that we stick in an electronic device and push a button. And so I gave it to him, and I said, would you like to go ahead and cast my vote for me? And he was just couldn't believe that we let him do that. And I said, now how are you going to vote? And he says, well, I think yes. And I said, well, I want a yes. So that'd be good. So he stuck the card in, voted yes. We saw it come up under my name. And I said to him, hey, see all these members, all of a sudden you've got, 100 or 200 members coming on the floor. I said, is there anyone here you want to meet? And he says, no, I don't really know anybody else here. And I looked down and I saw Speaker Mike Johnson in the well. And I said, well, there's Mike Johnson. You want to go meet him? And he says, oh, I'd love to meet Mike Johnson. So I walk him down, and this is just a great moment. It tells you so much about who Mike Johnson is. Speaker Johnson was talking to another member of Congress very directly, and he saw me walk up with this young man, and he immediately turned. Whatever he was talking to that member about was unimportant. He turned and he looked at this young man, and I introduced him to Speaker Johnson. And I said, he's had more surgeries than he can remember. I kind of told his story. Mike Johnson gave him a little lapel pin to wear. And then I could tell Speaker Johnson was very touched by this young man's story. And he reached back, Mike Johnson reached back, grabbed something from his staff member, put it in his hand, and reached out and shook this young man's hand. Well, he coined him. He coined him with the coin from the Speaker of the House, and he looks at his coin, and he just can't believe that he gave it to him. And I told the young man, I said, look, this is crazy. I've been here for 6 months. I've been trying to get a speaker's coin the whole time. The speaker won't give me one. And you walk onto this floor and he immediately gives you one. This kid was just beyond himself. I just look at that. And I mean, that is the beauty of being the honor, right, of me being able to be a member of Congress, is to be able to help do that for a constituent or for somebody from Colorado, to be able to, help a young man like that who's had a lot of challenges in his life, be able to realize, I mean, that's probably something he'll never forget in his whole life, that he got to go down on the floor of the House and meet the Speaker and things like that. And so that's just one story. I mean, there are just so many more, but those are kind of the great moments of being a member.
Jeff, I remember, as your friend, talking with you about when you're trying to decide whether or not to run for Congress or not.
Yeah.
And I would like to say that I was a proponent all along, because my whole reason was this. Well, one, I was like, if your wife wants you to run, she knows you better than anybody else. So that's probably a pretty good opinion to get behind. But the other reason is, I know your heart, and, you're a man of faith who wants to do good and cares deeply about America and about people. And, that came through in the work you did and how you live your life and all that. But, we need people who care about people and who care about doing right in Congress. I mean, we need people who are open to letting the Lord, use them for good.
Yeah.
Now that, if that's policymaking and making great policy for our country, or if that's just helping out a constituent or being there, giving a kid a great moment. And I'm so thrilled that you're able to be part of that and that you can facilitate that. That's such a cool story. I love that. That's what I always think, are probably, I would guess that, when you're all said and done being Congressman Crank, that those are probably the things that end up sticking out to you.
Yeah, those are the things I remember the most. And you talk about that. I mean, that's the great thing. Mike Johnson, more than any other member here, he totally gets that. Like, we're all put here divinely. I mean, we won our elections divinely, right? It was sort of, we went through a gauntlet, but we're all here to help save this great country that we live in. that amazingly came together, right? We beat the greatest military force on earth, the British military, with a bunch of ragtags who never had a chance but for sort of divine intervention. And that country still survives. It still goes on. In fact, it became the greatest power in the world, and I believe power for good, right? If you look at some of the amazing things we've done throughout our history, helped end slavery as an institution around the world. Great Britain and the United States were the two powers that we fought a civil war over it. We ended the scourge of slavery, and then in World War II, stood up to the Nazis and helped liberate those camps, and fought Japanese imperialism. I mean, this country has done incredible and amazing things, and then all of that history has been given to us, to our generation, David, right? And we have to all ask ourselves, what are we doing with it? What are we doing to save that and to preserve it? When I die and go to heaven, I want to meet God. I want to meet my Savior. But at the same time, I can't wait to meet George Washington. I can't wait to meet some of our founders and talk to them, and talk to Abraham Lincoln, but until then, I get to walk the Capitol and walk down the same steps that he walked down at some point. And that's a true honor to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I'm so happy that you're there fighting for us. We're going to try to keep your legacy of the podcast here on track, and hopefully keep growing it, spreading the good news and all the good stuff.
You're doing great. I mean, I'm really proud of you and Matt and Monica and the whole team, the whole podcast team. You've done great, and you're going to just continue to grow and spread. And I think of you look at what you guys are doing. You're spreading these great stories about people overcoming challenges, government-imposed barriers in their lives, and that's setting people free too. So you're doing great work, and I'm really couldn't be prouder of the great work that you're doing.
Well, thanks. That means a lot. Well, my friend, I appreciate you joining us so much. It's so great. Maybe you should do the out. I'm just kidding.
I think I've forgotten it. And I can't do it as good as you.
You along with me because you're the one who made it up. So
you do it in the number one podcast in government category way. I never was able to do that.
All right. We'll try it. So, hey, folks, if you like this episode and would like to stay connected with the podcast, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And always remember, liberty and freedom are easily taken for granted. Don't take it for granted. Go out there and defend freedom and liberty. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.